is clickbait. They made me do it.
Illustrations by Pete.
So I am putting together a video where it talks about all the things I'm sick of hearing from artists on YouTube, that they give you advice, and if it doesn't apply, I don't know what it is, but they think that this advice is just universal for everyone. And I don't think that's the case with anything when it comes to art. So that's one. This video, I do have some pain in my shoulder. I have a frozen shoulder and it hurts. And it's still frozen. It's not getting any better right now. It'll get better later. It's been developing over the course of time. It's okay. I don't draw with this arm. I draw with this arm. So I'm okay. We'll still keep making videos. So I put out a poll, and a lot of people have answered that poll. By a lot, I mean like 6 or 7 of you have answered the poll. It's about what stops you from creating. Because that's the most important thing. If something is stopping you, how are you dealing with that? What are you doing to combat that so you can get art back in your life? It's important. I think it's important. If you're watching this channel, you may think it's important. And this video was definitely inspired by my shoulder. I like drawing. It's like abstract anatomy. What's wrong with my brain? I don't deserve to be here. I'm going. So it's abstract anatomy is what it is. And I enjoy these. Sometimes I do these with gouache on black paper because it's nice to get that texture. I really enjoy that. But I wanted to do a drawing, so that's what I did here. Alright, let's get into it. So first thing, this has never happened before in this book, but for some reason when I poured on that ink, it went through the page. It's never happened anywhere else. I poured all sorts of stuff on this paper and never had that happen before. But this time it did. So I saw those little spots. I said, you know what, I'm going to make them a part of the drawing. And that's what I did. I wanted to make some kind of anatomical drawing of my shoulder that hurt me. And so I started looking at shoulder muscles and things, and I decided, okay, I'm going to do this kind of thing in this one. And I like the way it came out. I really do enjoy doing these kinds of things. So I asked a question to everyone in the community, and it's, what stops you from creating more art? And most people say that it's time and too busy. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. There's a couple different things that I have found that help you start creating more art in your life. And one of those things is called the switch method. It's not really called that. I don't have a word for it. It's just listen to this. So it's when you have something in your life that you know is ending soon, and before it stops and something else just gets in the way and fills that gap, you plan that art is going to take the place of that thing. Like, let's say little Susie has to go to soccer practice, but the season is almost up and you know it's coming up and you know it's going to be over, and you're so, okay, I know this time, this is it, this is the last game, this is the championship match, and after that I'm going to have these practice times, even if it's once a week, just these times during the week where I don't have to go to a ball practice, I don't have to go to a game, I'm going to fill that spot with art. And so you can plan that so that even if you don't have a minute right now, you can always do this. Susie, you're going to join a book club and go read. And so the games, this is what I'm drawing right now. And that's one way you can definitely create that time in your life. Another way is to find something. Look, I'm not trying to put anyone down or make anyone feel bad here, but really this applies to my life as well. If you do not have time to create art, it is because you have not made it a priority. And it may not be, and that's okay. It's okay to not have art be that priority in your life. Because life, you have other things happening in your life, and those things have to be a priority. But I just want you to hear this. So there are certain things, I'm sure, in your life somewhere that you can say, this is not a priority over art, and replace that thing in your life with art. That's just something you can figure out. Like, okay, I know that at a certain time every day I pick up a book even for 15 minutes and just read for 15 minutes or something. And that may be more important to you than art. That's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to point out, as appreciative as I am, you're watching this video, which means I'm probably not more important than art. So there's time right there every Monday when you would normally watch my video that you could. I'm not telling you to do that. I need the watch hours. I need that. But I'm just pointing out something you could. Why don't you draw while you watch the video? Some people do that. And that way we both win. And so if you're going to watch this video, before you watch the video, take out some paper, take out a pen or pencil or watercolor, whatever you like to use. And while you're watching the video, just for the length of the video, start drawing, start painting, start doing something. And that's time that you then have. Now, if you're watching this at work, I don't want you to do that. It will look weird. You're out on the production floor and you have your phone behind a little box so no one can see you watching it, and you turn it on and then you pull out some paints and you start painting. That'd be weird. You'd probably get fired. I don't want anyone to do that. I want you to be smart about this. But what I'm saying is, if you're just sitting in your car waiting for someone to get out of the grocery store, or waiting for someone to get out of a friend's house, and you're just sitting there, you know you're going to sit there for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and you're going to watch this video, take out a pad and pen and just start sketching. Do something to get life back in your life. Do you know what I mean? The art is life. Get that back in your life. It feels good. It makes you enthusiastic about things, and you think about things and want to try new things, and just get that back into your life. It's very important. Now, another thing that I mentioned, which no one actually agreed with, and I'm happy about that, is the cost of supplies. You do not have to spend a lot of money to create art. Number 2 pencil that is like 60 cents maybe. I don't know what they are, but they're very cheap. And a pen that you took because someone tried to sell you life insurance and gave you a pen. There's a pen right there. You just start drawing with that thing. So cost of art supplies, I'm glad no one agreed with that, because it's just, you shouldn't. The cost of supplies are not important if you just want to create, just get a little bit of art in your life. I'm sure you go down any school supply aisle in any store for like 60 cents, you could buy a pack of markers, and just those kinds of things are easy. And just to start creating, just to get some ideas going and some juices flowing. I'm not saying you're going to sell that art. It's probably not going to be archival. You probably wouldn't want to do that to someone else and steal their money. But just creating for yourself, just doing something for yourself, it's very easy to get your hands on cheap supplies and do that. I think one of the brands on Amazon is Arteza, and I like their gouache. I really do. But they have things that are real cheap, and they're not very expensive, but they're decent quality. Or you get like a lower quality something just to try it. It's fine. I would not suggest trying to learn if you could afford better, and instead you're just trying to prove a point by getting cheap stuff. I don't want to do that. But if that's what you can afford, that's what you use. You take that bag that you brought home your government cheese in, and you draw on that bag. And there's people who do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong at all. We used to make our book covers for textbooks in school with paper bags that we used to get from the grocery store or from wherever. And you draw all over those things. You just make them your own, and it's a part of life. It's a part of art, and you just do that. Now, some of you said that you have a lack of inspiration, and I think, if anything, my videos have hopefully shown you a little bit on where to get some inspiration from, how to get inspiration from photos, from life. You just look around. There's interesting patterns everywhere. There is flowers outside, there's grass, there's a house, there's a tree. Just find something that interests you. Draw some details. Get real close to it. Have you ever gotten real close to a tree with interesting bark patterns? You just sit there, you just draw, you just figure, okay, I really like the way this line intersects with this line. You just put it, it doesn't have to be the tree. It could just be the pattern of the bark can fill the whole page. And you just do that. Oh yeah, okay, I like. And then you start to add some shadows in places and give it some form and some texture. I mean, look at this thing. This is just a clump of deformed muscles, and there's nothing really here. It's not a real thing. There's nothing that looks like this in real life. But it kind of just said, okay, I'm going to think about muscles and what they look like, and I'm just going to put them down on some paper. And that's what I did. That's it. It's very simple. So inspiration, you can find that anywhere. If you have trouble finding that, just practice that. Go walk around. One of the best places I find inspiration is inside of, hear me out, don't judge me here, but inside a public men's restroom, the tile that are on the wall, that's what I'm talking about. The tile that's this, there's just textures and forms and shapes that I see inside the tile. It makes me want, oh, that looks really cool. Sometimes I take out my phone, I'm taking pictures. Someone walks in, they see me taking pictures in the men's room, they run out yelling, they go get the manager, and I'm banned from that place. But that's a different story for a different day. I'm just saying, you can find inspiration anywhere. You look at bricks or tile or like those stamped concrete. Look at some of that. I have that in my backyard, and I love to look at that for patterns and shapes. I get a lot of ideas from there. Now, I know I didn't answer any of the comments that anyone put. I usually answer every comment on every video, but I didn't on the posts because I wanted to make this video and answer them a little bit more directly. And I also just I don't want to point anybody out, but I'm going to answer your question. So if you posted something, listen for the answer. So some people or some person has said that they get into a creative manic depression. I can so relate to this. It's where you're like minute you're ready to just do anything and paint anything. You have all these ideas, it's crazy, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it drops off and you have no idea what to do. You're just walking around in circles. You don't know what it is you want to do. I can relate to that. Believe me, I can relate to that. One of the things that I do in that instance is I do two things. There's two things that I do. Number one, I shut off creating. I just look for inspiration. That's what I do. I spend my time that I would normally be creating art, and I go and just try and find inspiration. Sometimes it's looking at things that used to inspire me in the past. Like there's certain artists, I love looking at their sketches or looking at their paintings or drawings, and but I don't look at, listen, Instagram is not where to be if this is your problem. Don't go to Instagram and start flipping through, because you're going to have hundreds or thousands of photos in front of you and drawings and paintings. It's like overload. Don't do that. That'll add to your problem. Instead, what you're supposed to do, or what I would suggest you do, there's not really supposed to be anything. What I would suggest is just get a couple of sketches from that person that you really like and you really love their art, and just stare at them. Pick out little things. Oh, I like the way that form does that. And then just try and imitate that little tiny piece in your sketchbook. That little thing, just that one little item. And then go back, once you've drawn it or painted it or whatever you've done in your sketchbook, go back and look at something else that they've done and find one thing there, and then add it to the same page. And just turn it into a pieced together thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're not selling this as an original because you're taking other people's stuff. I just mean find what inspires you and put it down, and then go back over all the different aspects of that drawing that you've put together and see if anything inspires you to create a full drawing of that type of thing, that style of thing, or with that texture or something like that. And then create from there. That's one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do, and this is something that I do a lot, I have a lot of drawings and paintings that I don't like that I've done. And that's just me. I just look at it and I say, yeah, that was terrible. So go back to those things and try and find one thing you like in that drawing or painting. Just one thing. It could be a whole drawing. You hate it all except for this little 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter spot in this little corner here, and take that and bring it to a new painting. Put it in something new and make it bigger. Base a whole painting just on that one thing that you liked about your bad painting. See if that inspires you and gives you any kind of ideas or any kind of things. Maybe that will spark your next masterpiece. You have no idea. You could try it, just all of a sudden it's like it clicks. You're like, oh wow, I get it. That's the thing I like to do. That's what I want to do. And you just put it together. That's a magical moment right there. If you ever want to experience anything with art, that's the best moment to have, when you say, I've taken this failure that I have and I found something that I like and I created something that I love just from that failure. It's a nice feeling. So I would highly recommend you try that. Okay, there were a couple more things about, being an adult is a full-time job. I get it. I understand that. I still think everyone can find a little bit of time. Look, if you can find time to just anything, you can find time for art somewhere. And maybe you have to dumb it down a little bit. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but if you're painting with acrylics and the acrylic, I can't do much with this here. I'm gonna put the paints out and throw most of them away because I have no time to do anything with them. So maybe you work with oils instead, and I would suggest the water-soluble oils because they're the quickest cleanup, and you can put those water-soluble oils down on something and then cover them and they stay wet longer, so you can do a little passage in one place, put them down, come back to them in a couple days, do another little passage. They'll stay a lot better. They'll stay a lot more moist, a lot more workable, and the painting itself will as well. It'll stay a little bit tacky, so you can always go into it a little bit and move it around a little bit if you have to. Or watercolor. That's the perfect medium for someone who can only do a section at a time, 5-10 minutes at a time. Get watercolor. You can wet it, you put it on the page, and walk away. It completely dries. You come back to it a week later and add water, and you reactivate everything. You can work back into the painting or just reactivate your paints and work. And that's a fun way to go about it. Or you do a pen and ink or a pencil drawing. Those things you can leave indefinitely and come back to them whenever you have time. Just make sure that you come back to it, even if it's for 5 minutes, to draw 3 little lines and then leave. That's fine. Just make sure you do something. And I understand you have to provide for your children. You have to be an adult. You have a job. You got to go and make money so that you can feed your family. I get it. I understand that. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's your responsibility. But even in that scenario, I would struggle. I would highly, and you don't want anybody criticizing your effort, because you run constantly and sometimes you just want to sit down and do nothing. And I get that. You have to do that sometimes too. But if you have time to do anything, you could bring it into your life. So someone else said too much choice. They never decide what medium or subject or style to do. And that's a real struggle. Sometimes, my goodness, I sit down and I think, okay, what am I gonna do? I just did one of these videos and these drawings and this painting. Maybe I have to do something a little different, or maybe I just want to do the same thing. And what do I do? Do I change it up? I have several different other things here that I could. So here's what I would do. I would set a little. You can do this, and this is something I have done before. You take your pen and you put it down on a piece of paper, then you write all the things around the outside, all the different mediums around the outside, and spin your pen, and where it points, that's what you use. Just make yourself use it. If you have the time to create and I just don't know, it's just paralysis, I don't know what to do now, do that. Then do the same thing with subjects. Come up with subjects that you like. A doodle, or doodles can do anything. You can do anything with a doodle. That doesn't have to be, you can, like, this is a muscle fiber tissue kind of doodle thing. And that's fine. I could do this, or I could do shapes, or I could do birds, or I could do tree, whatever. So just come up with some different subjects you like to draw. Things that have excited you in the past, put them on a wheel and spin that pen and see where it points. And that's what you do that time. And that way it takes all the thought out of what you're actually doing. If you need reference photos, they're all over the place. If you're doing an abstract, you can use anyone's photo. If you want to do an actual subject, there's sites like Pixabay that have just subjects all over the place. If you already know what subject you've spun that pen to, you just type it in the search and all those photos come up, and you pick any of them and say, okay, I'm going to take that first one or the second one, or don't go past the first page, because you'll just sit there looking at pictures all day and then you'll have no more time to draw. So make sure you stay on that first page and say, okay, this one, and then draw it, paint it, whatever you're going to do. Or maybe you want to restrict yourself like to the World Watercolor Month, but the other is October. They do the Inktober thing, or some people don't like that now for whatever reason. All those things, the political nonsense just drives me nuts with the art community. I don't understand it. I don't get it. You do what you want to do, but if I want to draw with ink and that's what I want to do, that's what I'll do. And if it's a part of a community thing and you tag that, like the World Watercolor Month, you tag it on Instagram or wherever you post your stuff, and it's just kind of brings everybody together, makes them aware of what's going on. I get that. But you can do an artificial version of this. You can do like a week thing and say, okay, this week I'm only going to use ink, or this week I'm only going to use watercolor, or line and wash, or acrylics, or whatever you're going to do. Or just say, I'm going to do this many paintings of this thing, or this many drawings of one thing, and see if that helps you get rid of the paralysis, because you already know going into your drawing session, this is the medium I'm using at least. Or maybe it's a type of thing you're drawing. Maybe I'm going to draw a different tree every week, or a different flower every week, or a different fruit, or whatever you're into drawing or painting, and you already know going in, so you have a plan. That way when you do get the time to do it, you sit down and you just pick it up, and that's what you're doing that day. Well, I think I have rambled long enough. I hope you've enjoyed the talk. This thing got out of control a little bit. There was some weird spots that I made look like they were, I don't know, moldy muscle. I don't know how that works, but that's in here. So that's going to be a new thing now. I'm going to publish that paper real soon. You're going to find me on WebMD under moldy muscle. It'll just be a picture of my face. Anyway, let me know down below if you have a thing that you do. What do you do when you don't have art in your life? How do you combat that? Either you don't have time, or, you know, the same thing, the paralysis, or whatever the case is, what do you do to combat that, to keep art in your life? Please let me know that, and like the video if you've done something that I haven't mentioned here and you find that that works much better than any of my lame advice. Well, that's about it for me. I'm gonna go, and I'll see you in the next one.